Divorced men. What happened when karma finally dealt justice to the unhappy wife? Story 1. My ex used to introduce herself as the unhappy wife, like it was a medical condition, at every dinner. I'm just not fulfilled. Translation, nothing I do counts, and it's your fault. I worked, cooked, fixed the house, planned dates. She'd sigh like I'd handed her a receipt instead of a life. When she asked for divorce, she cried in the lawyer's office and said, he never supported my dreams. Her dream apparently was quitting her job to find herself, while I paid for everything. She got the house in the settlement. I got the dog, a couch, and silence. 6 months later, I heard she was finally living. New friends, new man, new Instagram. Then her support system got tired of supporting. The new man moved in, and suddenly the mortgage wasn't cute anymore. She called me the first time crying like we were still a team. I'm drowning, I said. Talk to the bank. The karma part wasn't dramatic. It was colder than that. The house went up for sale. She tried to refinance, but her income was vibes. Her friends stopped answering. And the cherry on top? She found out, through the closing documents, that I'd quietly kept my retirement untouched while she'd spent her payout healing. At the final walkthrough, I went to pick up mail that was still getting sent to me. She was there, sitting on the floor in an empty living room, mascara smudged. Looking small in a house she fought so hard to win. She whispered, "You're really just going to watch me lose everything?" I told her the truth she hated most. I'm not doing anything. Life is just charging you for the choices you made. And for the first time in years, she didn't have a speech. Just a house echoing back at her. Story 2. My ex's favorite phrase was, I'm an unhappy wife. She said it like a warning label. She also said it to my boss at our company party once, which was a choice. In the divorce, she dragged me hard. Claimed I was emotionally abusive because I didn't validate her pain when she screamed at me for breathing wrong. She wanted alimony, the car, and half my bonus even though she'd quit her job to start a boutique candle brand that never produced a single candle. Judge didn't love her theatrics. She still got a decent settlement, but not the fantasy she'd rehearsed. She walked out of court furious and told everyone I won because men always win. A year later, Karma showed up wearing a very boring uniform, an HR email. She'd started dating a guy at her new job and told everyone she was finally with a real man. Then she started documenting her unhappy wife recovery on TikTok, naming her workplace, filming inside the office, and posting videos about toxic men in leadership while showing their faces in the background. Someone reported it. HR called her in. She tried the same performance she used on the judge. Tears, trembling voice, I'm being silenced. HR asked her to hand over her phone. She refused. They placed her on leave. The next week, she texted me out of nowhere. Do you still have that lawyer? I need help. They're trying to ruin my life. I replied, I thought you said I ruined it. She got terminated. Then she tried to spin it online, but the company's legal team slapped her with a cease and desist. And the most brutal part? Her followers didn't rally. They moved on to the next drama. She called me at midnight sobbing, saying, I'm so tired of being the bad guy. I said, then stop auditioning for it. That's when it clicked for me. She didn't want justice. She wanted an audience. Karma just turned the lights off. Story 3. I used to think my ex was miserable because of me. She'd stare at the wall and say, I'm an unhappy wife, like she was trapped in a stranger's life. So I kept trying to fix it. Therapy, weekend trips, new routines, more chores, less golf, less friends, less me. Nothing worked because the unhappiness wasn't a problem to solve. It was her leverage. During the divorce, she told our families I was selfish and cold. She posted vague quotes about narcissists. People looked at me like I'd kicked a puppy. I didn't fight it. I just wanted out. Karma hit her in a way I didn't predict. She finally got everything she demanded, then had to live with herself in it. She kept the social circle because they believed her story. I lost most of them. I rebuilt quietly. New place. Gym. 2 promotions. New friends who didn't know her script. 2 years later, one of her closest friends, Lena, ran into me at a grocery store and blurted, oh my God, I owe you an apology. Apparently, my ex had started doing the same thing to them. Endless complaints, guilt trips. If you loved me, you'd show up. You're abandoning. Nobody understands my pain. She'd borrowed money from 3 friends for rent while going on weekend trips. She'd started dating someone and introduced him as her healer, then accused him of betrayal when he asked her to contribute financially. The group finally compared notes. They realized every relationship she had ended with the same villain. Whoever stopped carrying her. They cut her off one by one. Lena told me my ex had shown up at her house screaming, you're just like him. Lena replied, no, He was just the first person who refused to be manipulated. The last piece of karma? My ex tried to contact me again, not to apologize, never that, but to ask if I'd talk to the others because she was going through a hard time. I didn't respond. And for the first time, her unhappy wife act had nobody left to blame. Story 4. My ex didn't cheat. She didn't smash plates. She was smarter than that. She weaponized sadness. Every time I confronted her about disrespect, she'd get quiet and whisper, "I'm just an unhappy wife." Like that sentence erased everything she'd done 5 minutes earlier. She'd flirt with other men openly and call it feeling seen. She'd spend our savings and call it self-care. If I got upset, I was controlling. When she asked for divorce, she said, "I deserve a man who makes me feel alive." She moved in with a coworker within 3 weeks. I was humiliated, but I kept my mouth shut. Then I got my own lawyer and found out she'd been using a credit card in my name. One I didn't even know existed, because you never let me have anything. She assumed I'd be too ashamed to fight. I fought. The court part was slow, dull, and honestly miserable. But karma doesn't need fireworks. It needs paperwork. My lawyer pulled statements, signatures, dates. Her story started collapsing under numbers. She walked into the hearing wearing a sad beige dress and the same trembling voice, told the judge she was scared of me. Then the judge looked at the bank records and asked why a scared woman was comfortable opening accounts in my name and running them up for months. She stuttered. Then she tried to blame her new boyfriend. He stood up, unprompted, and said, "Don't put this on me. You told me it was your husband's card and he knew." The courtroom went dead quiet. The judge ordered her to repay, restricted contact, and noted her credibility issues on record. Outside, she tried to grab my arm and hissed, "You're ruining my life." I leaned in and said, "No, you just finally met consequences." Watching her realize she couldn't cry her way out of math, that was the justice I didn't know I needed. Story 5. My ex built her whole identity around being the unhappy wife. She'd tell strangers. She'd tell waiters. She told my mother at Thanksgiving like it was a toast. "I'm unhappy, and I'm trying so hard." Meanwhile, she was poisoning our marriage in private. Constant criticism, silent treatment, then sudden affection when she wanted something. When I finally left, she acted shocked, like the unhappy wife didn't expect the husband to stop volunteering as the villain. She went scorched earth online, posted about freedom, about surviving, about escaping a man who wouldn't grow. People clapped for her. I was the faceless monster. Then karma came from the one place she didn't control, her own mouth. A year after the divorce, she got engaged to a guy who'd been commenting heart emojis under those posts the whole time we were still married. Big, flashy proposal. She invited everyone. She also invited my sister because she wanted to prove she was still family. At the engagement party, she had a little speech prepared. She held up her glass and said, "I spent years being an unhappy wife, and now I finally found someone who makes me feel safe and adored." And my sister, without thinking, said out loud, "Wait, weren't you telling everyone you were an unhappy wife even before you married my brother?" Silence. Someone laughed awkwardly. Then another person asked, "Yeah, how long have you been saying that?" My ex tried to recover, but it spiraled. Her new fiancé's mother asked, "So you were unhappy in your first marriage from the start?" Then the fiancé asked, right there, "So what happens when you decide you're unhappy again?" My ex's face changed. Not sad, angry, the mask slipping. She snapped, "If you're going to judge me, maybe I shouldn't be here at all," and stormed out, knocking over a tray of drinks. That engagement didn't last 2 months. Later, she texted me, "You turned everyone against me." I replied, "You gave a speech. Sometimes karma doesn't chase you. Sometimes it just lets you talk." Story 6. She loved calling herself the unhappy wife, but only in public, like she was collecting sympathy points. In private, she was a CEO of chaos, rewriting arguments, moving goalposts, and then crying when I stopped playing. After the divorce, she told everyone I abandoned her at her lowest. What she didn't tell them was that her lowest was a lifestyle. Bills ignored, jobs quit, therapy skipped, blame outsourced. She got the apartment in the settlement and bragged online about her fresh start. Karma showed up as a neighbor. 3 months later, I got a call from our old landlord asking if I knew where she was. She'd sublet the place illegally, collected deposits from 2 girls, and then vanished for a weekend. The girls came home to a locked door because she hadn't paid rent, and the landlord had changed the locks. She tried to spin it. "They're harassing me. I'm a victim." But this time, there were receipts, screenshots, and furious voices that weren't mine. The girls filed a report. The landlord sued. Suddenly, her Instagram quotes about healing didn't pay legal fees. She called me sobbing, asking if I could just talk to them, like I was still her cleanup crew. I said, "No, you don't get to borrow my calm anymore." The wild part? For once, she couldn't blame me publicly. Everyone could see the mess. It wasn't a marriage problem. It was a her problem. And that was the closest thing to justice I ever got. Story 7. My ex wasn't unhappy. She was competitive. She competed with my hobbies, my friends, my mother, even my sleep. If I smiled at a joke, she'd sulk like I'd cheated. The divorce was ugly. She demanded alimony and told the mediator I was emotionally withholding. The truth, I stopped reacting to her tantrums, and she called that cruelty. A year after we split, she sent me a picture of a brand new SUV. Caption: finally upgrading. I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, karma hit her with the most boring villain on earth, an insurance investigator. Turns out she'd claimed her old car was stolen the month before, collected a payout, then found it again in a friend's garage. She told people it was a misunderstanding. The insurer didn't think misunderstandings came with conveniently filed paperwork. They reopened the case. Then they pulled footage from a gas station where she'd been seen driving the stolen car, days after she reported it gone. She called me furious. "Did you report me?" I laughed. Actually laughed, and said, "You really think you're the main character in my life?" When she got charged, her new boyfriend bailed fast. Her unhappy wife act didn't work on a detective with a folder full of timestamps. She tried posting about being targeted, but comments turned brutal. "Girl, you posted the car yourself. Justice didn't need my help." She handed it to karma with a bow. Story 8. My ex's favorite threat was quiet. "If we divorce, everyone will know what you're really like." She said it like she had files, like she owned my reputation. She played unhappy wife so well that even I doubted myself. Maybe I was cold. Maybe I was selfish. Meanwhile, she drained our joint account in small amounts. $80 here, $120 there. Always with the same excuse. I needed it for my mental health. After we split, she demanded more money, claiming she was struggling. I refused. She told people I was abusive. I stayed silent because I didn't want war. Karma arrived at a family barbecue I almost skipped. My cousin hosted. I came alone. She came with her new guy and that fragile, practiced smile. Someone asked how she was doing, and she launched into a speech about surviving a toxic marriage. Then my aunt, sweet, quiet aunt, said, "Oh, honey, did you ever return the money you borrowed from me? The $2,000 you said was for rent?" My ex froze. She hadn't expected that question in public. And like dominoes, another relative said, "Wait, you borrowed from me too?" Then, "She borrowed from me." Then, "She still owes my daughter." Her new boyfriend's face changed. You could see him doing math in real time. How many people has she used? My ex tried to cry, but the room didn't soften. The unhappy wife character had no script for being confronted by 5 receipts and a dozen disappointed faces. She left early, alone. The boyfriend stayed to apologize for not knowing. That night, I didn't celebrate. I just felt clean, like the truth finally stepped out where everyone could see it. Story 9. The worst part of my marriage wasn't yelling. It was the constant background noise of her misery. She'd sigh, roll her eyes, and say, "I'm such an unhappy wife," like she was narrating a tragedy. After divorce, she went full influencer. Soft life, healing era, protecting my peace. She posted videos about boundaries while crossing everyone else's. I moved on quietly, got healthier, started dating again. I thought karma would be some dramatic moment. It wasn't. It was a wedding invitation. A mutual friend invited both of us. I almost declined. Then I decided, I'm not shrinking anymore. At the wedding, she floated around telling people her ex never appreciated her. She tried to corner my new girlfriend with that fake warm voice. "So, do you know what he's really like?" My girlfriend smiled politely and said, "I do. He's kind, consistent, and he doesn't speak badly about you, which is honestly impressive." My ex blinked like she'd been slapped. Then, right behind her, the bride's father, who happened to be my old mentor, said, "Hey, weren't you the one who emailed his boss accusing him of things that weren't true? We had to investigate that. Ugly stuff." My ex went pale. Because she'd forgotten. When you try to ruin someone's life, you leave footprints. People started murmuring. She tried to laugh it off, but the room's energy shifted away from her like she was smoke. She left early. I didn't follow. I danced. Karma didn't punish her with fire. It punished her with memory. With people finally connecting the dots. And for someone who lives on narratives, that's a death sentence. Story 10. My ex called herself the unhappy wife and made me the villain of her story. But the secret was simple. She wasn't unhappy because of me. She was unhappy because she needed to win. During the divorce, she insisted on keeping my grandfather's watch, something she never cared about until she realized I did. She smirked when she got it, like she'd scored a point. Months later, she messaged me. I'm thinking of selling some things. Want to buy it back? She wanted me to beg. She wanted me to pay twice. I didn't reply. A week after that, my mother called me, laughing in disbelief. You won't believe this. Your watch is at the police station. Here's what happened. My ex tried to sell it to a pawn shop. The owner checked the serial number, because high-end watches get flagged, and it matched a list of stolen items from a burglary years ago. Not my burglary. My grandfather's before he died. He'd reported the theft. The watch had never been recovered. So my ex walked into a store trying to cash in on my sentimental loss and got pulled into a back office while the shop called police. She screamed that it was hers, that she got it in a divorce, that I was harassing her. None of that mattered because the watch wasn't legally mine either. It was evidence tied to an old case. Karma's punchline: she lost the watch, lost the money, and suddenly had to answer questions she couldn't cry her way out of. She texted me later. This is your fault. I finally responded, no. This is your habit of taking things that were never yours. And that felt like justice wrapped in metal and time. Story 11. My ex's unhappy wife era wasn't sadness. It was strategy. She'd start fights right before family events so I'd show up exhausted and quiet. Then she'd tell everyone, see? He's always like this. After the divorce, she upgraded the act. Long posts about surviving emotional neglect. She tagged my workplace once. I didn't respond. My therapist called it, don't wrestle a pig. Fine. Karma showed up in the form of a background check. She started dating a guy with kids and tried to move in fast. He was cautious, so she played the victim. My ex ruined my faith in men. The guy's ex-wife wasn't impressed. Before letting a stranger around her kids, she dug a little. Turns out my ex had a small trail. Unpaid tickets, a civil claim from a previous roommate, and, my favorite, a restraining order request from a woman she used to be best friends with. Nothing violent, just a documented pattern of harassment and showing up uninvited. The new boyfriend confronted her at a restaurant. He didn't yell. He just slid the printed pages across the table and asked, why didn't you tell me any of this? She tried her usual spell. Tears, shaking hands. I'm being persecuted. He said, no, you're being revealed. She messaged me later like I was her customer support. Did you give them information about me? I replied, I didn't have to. You've been leaving evidence for years. For once, she couldn't rewrite the story. Paper doesn't care who's unhappy. Story 12. In our marriage, she kept a pain journal. At least that's what she called it. It was basically a list of my mistakes, real and imaginary, stored like ammo. If I forgot to buy oat milk, she'd flip pages like a lawyer. On June 3rd, you invalidated me. After divorce, she demanded we keep weekly emotional check-ins because she needed closure. I said no. She said, you're proving I was right about you. Classic. Karma hit when she tried to use that journal on the wrong person. She got into a messy breakup with her next boyfriend and decided to expose him online. Screenshots, captions, the whole show, except she included photos of his apartment, and his address was visible on a delivery label in the background. People started showing up. Not fans, random creeps. He filed a report, and the police asked her to take the post down. She refused, claiming it was her truth. Then he sued for harassment and doxing. In court, her pain journal came out because she'd been documenting everything, including plans to ruin him so he learns. The judge read her own words aloud, out loud. In a quiet courtroom, she tried to cry, tried to say she was just an unhappy woman trying to heal. The judge said, healing doesn't look like retaliation. She lost. Paid damages. And the best part? For the first time, I wasn't the accused man in the room. She finally stood in front of consequences without me as a shield. Story 13. She called me emotionally unavailable because I stopped reacting to her bait. If I stayed calm, she said I was cold. If I got upset, she said I was dangerous. There was no winning, only apologizing. After divorce, she told everyone I never listened. Then she started a podcast about being an unhappy wife. I wish I was joking. Episode titles like When Your Husband is a Wall. Karma arrived through a sponsor. She finally got a small brand deal. Nothing huge, but she acted like she'd been discovered. She posted the ad, smiling, talking about empowerment. Within hours, comments filled up. From people who knew her in real life, old co-workers, a former friend, even our neighbor. Not insults, receipts. She stole money from our office charity drive. She lied about me to my husband. She harassed my sister for months. The sponsor panicked and asked her to delete the post. She refused, saying she was being targeted by misogynists. The sponsor dropped her public. Then other brands backed away. She texted me in rage, "Are you behind this?" I said, "No. People just remember you." That's when it hit me. Karma didn't punish her with pain. It punished her with visibility. The mask worked when it was just me. It didn't work when the crowd started comparing notes. Story 14. My ex loved to say, "I'm unhappy because you don't lead." She wanted a man who took charge. But every time I made a decision, she'd sabotage it just to prove I couldn't. After divorce, she found a leader fast. Some guy who talked like a motivational poster. She flaunted him online. Trips, fancy dinners, manifestation quotes. Then she called me whispering, "Can I stay at your place for a few nights?" Apparently, Mr. Leader was leading her into debt. He'd convinced her to co-sign a loan for his business opportunity. She did it because she wanted to be the supportive partner she claimed I never was. The business vanished. The payments didn't. She tried to break up with him, and he threatened her. "If you leave, you'll never see a cent back." She posted a vague story about narcissists, then quietly started selling her stuff. Karma's justice was brutal but clean. She finally experienced what it's like to be on the other side of manipulation. And the moment she asked me for help, I realized she still thought I existed to rescue her. I told her, "I hope you get through this, but you can't move into my peace." 2 weeks later, she had to move back with her mother. The same woman she used to mock as toxic. That house, those rules, that loss of control, it humbled her in a way I never could. Story 15. She spent years telling people I was the reason she was unhappy. "He's a nice guy, but," was her favorite opening line, like she was doing public relations for her misery. After the divorce, she demanded we sell the house immediately so she could start over. I agreed, mostly because I wanted the chapter closed. She took her half and posted about finally breathing again. Then she tried to get revenge anyway. She filed a complaint with my licensing board, claimed I was unethical at work. It was vague, dramatic, and full of emotional language. I was terrified. I'd built my career from nothing. The investigator called me in. I brought documentation, emails, timelines, everything. I expected a nightmare. Instead, the investigator sighed and said, "You're not the first person she's filed on." Turns out my ex had done this before. Against a teacher, a landlord, a former friend. Same pattern. Conflict, breakup, then an official complaint to hurt them. So when she tried it on me, the board didn't just dismiss it. They flagged her for malicious reporting. She got a warning letter. Then, because she kept emailing them, she got hit with a no-contact order from the agency. She called me screaming, "You always get away with everything." I said, "No, I just don't weaponize institutions when I don't get my way." Karma didn't save me by crushing her. It saved me by exposing the pattern, officially, on record. So the next man she labeled the reason I'm unhappy might recognize the trap sooner. Story 16. My ex used unhappy wife like a hall pass. If she was unhappy, anything she did was automatically justified. Cold shoulder for days? I'm depressed. Flirting with her coworker? I need attention. Draining our savings? Retail therapy. And if I questioned it, I was controlling her healing. After the divorce, she tried to keep me on a leash with co-parenting. Even though we didn't have kids. She'd text about the dog I kept. "I miss him. I'm not okay." Then, "Also I need you to send me $300 because the world is punishing me." Karma hit at the one place she thought was her safe stage. A support group. She started going to a local women rebuilding group and told everyone she survived an emotionally abusive marriage. The group rallied around her. Then one night, a new woman showed up. Quiet, older, sharp eyes, and listened to her story without reacting. After the meeting, that woman pulled the coordinator aside and said, "That's my sister-in-law, my ex's sister-in-law. The one who watched her scream at me at holidays, saw her shove me in the kitchen once, heard her brag about making him pay for everything." The coordinator asked questions. My ex got defensive, then furious. She stormed out and posted online that the group was toxic, but the damage was done. She'd lost the audience that fed her. And for the first time, her unhappy wife story didn't earn comfort. It earned suspicion. That kind of rejection hit her harder than any insult I ever gave. Story 17. My ex didn't want to be happy. She wanted to be right about being unhappy. When we separated, she demanded we keep our joint credit card for emergencies. I said no. She called me selfish, posted about financial abuse, and told people I was starving her. A month later, I got a fraud alert from my bank. Someone tried to open a card in my name using my old address and a phone number I didn't recognize. I froze. Then I remembered. She still had access to a box of old paperwork I'd left behind in the garage. I filed a report. The bank's fraud team did what fraud teams do, follow the trail. 2 weeks later, she called me with the sweetest voice I'd heard in years. "Hey, did you get any weird bank calls? I think my identity might have been compromised." I said, "Really? Because the application used your phone number. Silence. She snapped instantly. I was just trying to protect myself. Then she started crying, saying she was an unhappy wife who had to survive. Karma was the detective who didn't care about her feelings. He cared about the IP address, the timestamps, and the recorded verification call where she answered security questions like she was ordering takeout. She didn't go to jail, but she got a formal warning and a fraud flag that made opening accounts a nightmare. She lost her apartment application too. Background checks don't like suspected financial fraud. She texted me. You ruined me, I replied. You tried to ruin me, and tripped. Story 18. She said she was unhappy because I wasn't ambitious enough. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs while she figured herself out. The real issue wasn't my ambition. It was that she hated not being the star. After divorce, she finally got her dream. She moved into a trendy building downtown, got a new wardrobe, and started dating a guy who owned a motorcycle and called himself an entrepreneur. She posted every moment like a trailer for a better life. Then karma came as a simple question from the leasing office. Can you verify your income? Turns out she'd been telling them she worked for a company she didn't work for anymore. She used an old offer letter and photoshopped pay stubs. It almost worked, until the building manager called the HR number on the letterhead. They rescinded her lease. She lost the deposit. She lost the apartment. And the entrepreneur boyfriend, shock, didn't offer to help. He offered a couch and a lecture about energy. She called me and said, I can't believe you're okay watching me struggle. I said, I watched you struggle inside our marriage for years. You just didn't want solutions. You wanted blame. The justice wasn't her suffering. It was the universe removing the fancy backdrop so she couldn't pretend anymore. Story 19. My ex used to pick fights right before bed, then say, see, I can't sleep because of you. She'd call herself the unhappy wife, while I laid there staring at the ceiling, wondering when my life became a hostage situation. After we divorced, she tried to keep control through our shared friends. She'd cry at brunch. He's moved on so fast, when I hadn't even dated yet. She made sure everyone saw her pain. Pain was her currency. Then karma hit in the form of a group chat leak. One of her friends accidentally sent screenshots to the wrong thread, our old friends group that included me. In the screenshots, my ex was bragging, if I cry, they'll all take my side. Men hate being seen as the bad guy. Another message. I don't miss him. I miss winning. The chat went quiet. Then someone replied, is this real? My ex tried to spin it as taken out of context. But you can't unread cruelty written in your own words. One by one, people stopped inviting her. Not dramatically, just absence. No more audience. No more stage. She texted me later. You poisoned them against me. I said, you did. They just finally heard you without the soundtrack. That was justice. Not revenge, not court, just truth reaching the people she'd used. Story 20. She was the type to say, I'm unhappy, and it's your responsibility to fix it. I tried. I did everything. And when it didn't work, she told everyone I never tried at all. After divorce, she asked for one thing I agreed to. I kept her on my health insurance for a few months until her new job benefits kicked in. She cried and thanked me, said maybe I wasn't as horrible as she thought. Then she used it to punish me. She started scheduling expensive appointments, back-to-back specialists, tests, therapy sessions, with the highest co-pays, all under my plan. Then she'd forget to pay the bills so they came to my address. When I confronted her, she said, consider it compensation for my suffering. So I filed the paperwork to remove her on the exact date allowed. Clean, legal, silent. Karma showed up the next week. She got sick, nothing catastrophic, but serious enough to need treatment, and found out she had a gap in coverage because her new job benefits didn't start until the following month. The clinic asked for payment up front. She didn't have it. She called me screaming, how could you do this to me? I'm an unhappy wife. I cut her off. You're not my wife. And you made your unhappiness a weapon. She ended up asking her mother for money and moved back home temporarily, the same mother she used to call emotionally unsafe. The justice wasn't that she got sick. The justice was that she finally had to pay the real price of treating people like tools. Story 21. My ex didn't just say she was an unhappy wife. She said it like a diagnosis. Like everyone should immediately lower their expectations and raise their sympathy. After the divorce, she kept my last name for professional reasons. Then she started using it like a weapon. She'd email vendors and landlords as Mrs., my last name, to sound credible, then blame me when things went wrong. One day I get a call from a boutique wedding venue in the next city. The manager goes, sir, are you aware you have an unpaid balance for a reservation? I laughed, because I wasn't even dating. Turns out my ex had booked a venue under my last name, used an old photo of my signature from a scanned document, I recognized it instantly, and put down a deposit with a card that later got disputed. Then she told the venue she'd have her husband handle it, and stopped answering. The venue sent a demand letter to my address. My ex didn't expect that. She thought the whole world still revolved around me cleaning up her mess. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. The venue pulled their camera footage from the day she toured. Clear as day. Her face, her ID, her email, her voice saying, "We're keeping it small, just family." Karma's timing was perfect. They confronted her during a tasting appointment she brought her new fiancé to. The manager walked up with printed screenshots and said, "Before we continue, we need to discuss the forged authorization." Her fiancé asked, "Forged what?" And my ex did what she always did. She tried to cry and say she was under so much stress, but the manager wasn't me. She didn't soften. She said, "Ma'am, you committed fraud." The fiancé left first. My ex chased him into the parking lot screaming that I was ruining her life. I didn't even have to show up. The consequences RSVP'd for me. Story 22. My ex would start every argument with, "You don't understand what it's like being an unhappy wife." And if I tried to understand, she'd change the rules until I failed. After the divorce, she got obsessed with taking back what she deserved. That turned into her showing up at my place unannounced. First by accident, then because you still owe me closure. One night she came at 1 a.m. and wouldn't leave. I didn't open the door. I just recorded through the peephole while she yelled that I was hiding like a coward. Next morning, she posted a sad story online. Spent the night begging for peace. Men are cruel. She didn't know my new neighbor was a retired cop who heard everything. He walked over, asked if I was okay, then said, "You want this handled clean?" I filed a report. Not dramatic, just documented. 2 weeks later, she tried it again. Same routine, louder this time. She banged on the door and shouted, "Let me in, I'm your wife." And my neighbor stepped out and said, calm as ice, "No, ma'am, he's divorced. And you're trespassing." She swung on him with words first. Then she made the mistake of pushing past him toward my door. The patrol car arrived fast. She tried to flip the script. Hands shaking, voice breaking. "I'm the unhappy wife. I'm scared." The officer looked at the body cam footage from the previous report and said, "You're not scared. You're persistent." Watching her realize that tears don't erase patterns? That was the justice. She walked away with a formal warning and a court date hanging over her like a storm cloud. Story 23. She always said she was unhappy because I made her feel invisible. Meanwhile, she treated everyone like props in her drama, especially me. After the divorce, she became obsessed with being seen as the victim who survived. She posted inspirational captions, hosted little healing brunches, and told people I was financially abusive. Here's the part she didn't expect. She started dating a guy whose sister was an accountant. My ex kept bragging about her new income from a side hustle. Cash only, no receipts, very boss babe. She also loved telling people loudly how she took my money in the divorce and made it grow. The accountant's sister didn't clap. She asked one simple question. "So are you reporting that income?" My ex laughed and said, "Why would I? The government took enough from me already." A month later, she got an audit notice. Suddenly, she was calling me like we were best friends again. "Did you do this?" "Be honest," I said. "I don't have that kind of power." She spiraled. She started begging people for screenshots of payments, trying to rebuild a paper trail that didn't exist. She posted vague threats about snitches and enemies. That only made it worse because one of her own followers messaged her sponsor like, "Is this the kind of person you work with?" The audit turned into penalties. Penalties turned into a payment plan. Payment plan turned into her selling the designer stuff she'd bought to prove she was thriving. The last time she called, she wasn't crying. She was furious. She hissed, "You always land on your feet," I told her, "because I stopped building my life on shortcuts." She hung up so hard it felt like a door slammed across the whole past. Story 24. My ex's unhappy wife brand was polished. She'd say things like, "I just want emotional safety," while she was actively planting little bombs in my life. After the divorce, she started telling people I had a secret addiction. No proof, just insinuations. She wanted my new relationship to fail before it even started. Then karma picked the dumbest, most perfect messenger, her own phone. She forgot she'd given my sister her Netflix login years ago. My sister still had access to her account, meaning she could see the profile names and the continue watching section. One day my sister calls me laughing, breathless. "I think your ex is stalking you," because there it was. A profile named my name plus my girlfriend's name, Whiteheart. And the watch history? Videos like how to make your ex regret leaving, signs he's happier without you, and my personal favorite, can you sue your ex for emotional damage? My sister screenshotted everything and sent it to the family group chat by accident instead of just me. Within minutes, our aunt replied, "Is she okay, my cousin?" "That's scary, my mom." "Why is she watching lawsuit videos?" My ex found out and exploded. She called me screaming that I violated her privacy. I said, "You named a profile after me." She went silent for half a second, then tried the classic pivot. "I'm an unhappy wife. I'm hurting." And I cut her off with the simplest truth. "You're divorced. You're just obsessed." That screenshot did what I couldn't. It made everyone stop believing her polished victim act, instantly. Story 25. My ex's unhappiness had a soundtrack. Sighs, slammed cabinets, and the sentence, "You're lucky I'm still here." She used misery like leverage, like she deserved a prize for tolerating me. When she finally left, she told everyone I was hopeless, and she was finally choosing herself. She demanded we split everything down to the forks, and she fought hardest for one thing, the dog. She didn't love the dog. She loved that I loved the dog. She got him for the first 6 months to prove she could handle responsibility. I bit my tongue and followed the agreement. Then the calls started. "He's too much. He misses you. He's acting out." I offered to take him back. She refused until her new boyfriend moved in and said, "I'm not living with a dog that pees when it's anxious." So she tried to rehome him behind my back, posted him online as free to a good home. A random couple showed up and took him. Karma came fast and loud, because the dog was microchipped in my name. The couple took him to a vet the next day. The vet scanned the chip, saw my info, and called me. I drove there shaking, half angry, half terrified. My ex arrived at the clinic mid-argument, trying to put on tears. I was doing what was best. "I'm overwhelmed. I'm unhappy." The vet looked at her and said, flat, "You can be unhappy and still not give away someone else's animal." The couple handed me the leash. My dog walked straight to me like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. My ex's face twisted. Rage first, then panic, because she realized the one thing she tried to steal for control was gone, legally and physically, right in front of her. She followed me into the parking lot yelling, "You think you won?" I didn't answer. I just opened the car door, and my dog jumped in without looking back. Story 26. My ex loved therapy language. Safe space. Triggers. Emotional labor. She'd toss those words like grenades and then call herself the unhappy wife whenever I got hurt. If I defended myself, I was invalidating her lived experience. After the divorce, she tried to keep me in orbit by demanding closure meetings. I refused. So she got creative. She started sending letters to my apartment. Handwritten, dramatic, perfume-soaked pages about how I destroyed her spirit. I ignored them until my building manager called and said, "Hey, your ex is leaving stuff in the lobby." Stuff turned out to be a box with my name on it. Inside, random photos, a torn hoodie, and a note that said, "Return what you stole from me." My manager had security cameras. When she came back the next day to drop another box, the manager stopped her and said, "You can't do this." She snapped, "I'm his wife," like the divorce decree was optional. Police got called. Not because I begged, but because she was causing a scene in a building full of people who didn't sign up for her soap opera. She tried the unhappy wife act with the officer. Tears. Wobbly voice. "He's ignoring me. I'm just trying to heal." The officer watched the lobby footage, then looked at her and said, "Ma'am, healing doesn't involve harassment." She got trespassed. A formal order, do not return. And for someone who lived off dramatic entrances, being banned from the stage hit her like a slap. Story 27. My ex used to accuse me of gaslighting whenever I remembered something accurately. If I said, "That's not what happened," she'd say, "There you go again, rewriting my reality. I'm an unhappy wife because of you." After the divorce, she claimed I stole her youth and demanded I pay for her rebuilding. She tried to get extra money by saying she sacrificed her career for mine. Here's the issue. She didn't sacrifice anything. She got fired twice for showing up late, then quit a third job because her manager felt masculine. Karma arrived as a deposition. She filed for a modification, wanting more support. Her lawyer advised her to keep it simple. She didn't. She wrote a long statement full of emotion, accusations, and one big lie, that I forced her to quit working. My lawyer requested her employment records. We subpoenaed emails, performance warnings, texts where she bragged, "If I quit, he'll have to pay more." In the hearing, the judge asked her directly, "Did you resign voluntarily?" She started crying and said, "I had no choice. I was an unhappy wife." My lawyer slid the printed text across to the judge. The judge read it silently, then looked up and said, "So you planned this?" Her face went blank, like her brain couldn't process being caught with her own words. The judge denied her request and made a note about credibility. That note mattered more than money, because now, anytime she tried to paint me as the villain, the The record already knew who she was. Story 28. She called herself unhappy, the way some people call themselves busy. It wasn't a feeling. It was a personality. After divorce, she started dating a married guy. Separated, she insisted. She posted soft-focus photos of their hands and captions about finally being chosen. Meanwhile, she was DMing my relatives for support, like we were still linked. Then karma came through the wife. Not in a screaming match. Not in a fight. In a single calm message to my ex that got screenshot and sent everywhere. Hi, I'm his wife. We are not separated. Please stop contacting my husband. I will be filing for divorce and including your messages as evidence. My ex tried to lie her way out. He told me you were abusive. He said you were toxic. I'm an unhappy woman. I didn't know. The wife didn't argue. She just posted the timeline. Dates, messages, even a photo of them together after my ex claimed they were separated. My ex's new dream man ghosted instantly. Then her supportive friends started backing away because nobody wants to defend a person caught red-handed. She called me, furious, begging for validation. See? Men lie. I'm always the victim. I said, no. You keep choosing men with mess because it gives you a story. Karma didn't punish her with heartbreak. It punished her with exposure. Everyone saw she wasn't unlucky. She was reckless on purpose. Story 29. My ex had a talent for ruining happy moments. If I got good news, she'd find a reason to be sad. If I smiled, she'd say I was mocking her pain. She'd whisper, I'm an unhappy wife. And suddenly the room belonged to her. After divorce, I started dating someone steady, kind, normal. The kind of calm my ex always claimed she wanted but never allowed. My ex found out and tried to sabotage it by messaging my girlfriend. Just so you know, he has anger issues. My girlfriend replied, thanks for your concern. Do you have any evidence? My ex sent a voice note, laughing, saying, evidence? I don't need evidence. I lived it. My girlfriend forwarded it to me. We saved it. No drama. 2 weeks later, my ex tried to file a police report claiming I threatened her. She wanted it on record so she could tell everyone. See? I warned you. The officer asked for details, times, messages, anything. She offered feelings. Then the officer asked me for my side. I handed over the saved voice note, the texts, and a timeline of where I'd been. Work badge logs, receipts. The officer listened to her own voice saying, I don't need evidence. And the whole room shifted. He looked at her and said, Ma'am, false reporting is serious. Watching her realize that her weaponized narrative didn't work against documentation, that was karma. She left the station pale and quiet, and she never contacted my girlfriend again. Story 30. She called herself unhappy, like it excused cruelty. She'd insult me, then say, I'm just in pain. She'd spend money, then say, I'm coping. She'd flirt, then say, I'm finally feeling alive. When we divorced, she took the nice furniture and the fancy plates. I took the tools and the old truck. She laughed at my sad bachelor life. Karma arrived through that truck. Months later, she called me panicked. I think someone's been in my house. The back door won't lock. I told her to call a locksmith. She said, I did. They said the door frame's shifting. And I can't afford it right now. The house she fought to keep? It had issues I used to fix. Quietly, constantly. Foundation settling. Water heater coughing. Little problems that become big when you ignore them. She tried to sell the house for profit. The inspection came back brutal. The buyer backed out. She dropped the price. Another buyer backed out. Then she realized the dream she won was expensive maintenance she never respected when I handled it. She called me again, voice small. You always made it look easy. I said, it wasn't easy. I just did it. That was the justice. She finally had to pay the real cost of the life she dismissed. Not because I cursed her, because she traded a partner for a fantasy and found out fantasies don't do repairs.